Welcome to day 9. We're on day 9 of the paint and body work for the 280Z. We're going to work on this front valance, the center part, because I can't find another one. So we're going to try to fix this one and get the corner pieces stripped and this front piece stripped, and then that's it. The stripping is done. I thought I was done yesterday. I thought I was just going to buy another piece and do all this at a later date, but you can't find them. Or I can't anyway. So I've got to do this today, and we're going to get busy with it, and then we got to fix some of the edges and try to get that all back to where it should be in its original state and nice and smooth and all that good stuff. So let's get the old paint off of this one and see how much metal repair we're going to have to do to get this thing right. Thanks for joining on day 9 of the paint and body work. Well, that was the quickest change of plans that I've ever made. As soon as I started brushing that with the nylon cut brush, I realized how many little bitty damaged areas that were going to need attention. And even on that small of a piece, it's just not worth it, unfortunately. So unless I absolutely cannot find one. So I'm gonna go search again and try to find just the center piece and hopefully order that and get a used one or something in better condition than that. And then work on body work on the new piece, because there's just, I would probably have hours upon hours upon hours of fixing that one. And then having to weld in 2 new sides for the little nut certs or nut plates to go on the back of that, because those are broke too. So it's just not worth it. It's like 4 or 5 hours of time, I think minimum, that it would take me to fix that. So we're gonna change course and do something that I think will be a little bit more productive today, and that's gonna be work on some fenders. We're gonna go through and get all these edges cleaned up, all the interior parts, and then the underside. We're gonna brush that out, get it all cleaned and ready for epoxy primer. So change of plans. Welcome to day 9. We're doing fenders today. All right, now that we have all the insides scuffed up and everything on the initial scuff, we're still gonna go through the entire inside, outside, and everywhere that we can get a little maroon scuff pad just to get the remaining dirt and debris off of it. But before we do that, we get some dents on the metal and the fenders that we need to try to hammer and dolly out. That way we use less filler, and that's the way it should have been a fix to begin with, or these dents could have happened after that fact. So we're gonna do a little bit of hammer and dolly work, try to tap those little dents on the fenders and make them even littler. So let's get busy doing that. Then we're gonna get on to scuffing and then throwing some epoxy down. Now that we've completed all the hammer and dolly work, we were able to massage those deeper dents a lot shallower. So that will be good because when we go to do the blocking and body filler, we'll have a lot less work to do when it gets to that stage of the build. Right now, we need to scuff everything inside and outside with the maroon Scotch-Brite scuff pad. So we're gonna cut off some of that. I just got a roll. Pro tip for the day is never buy Scotch-Brite from your box chain retail stores. They are way overpriced and that stuff's expensive anyway. Don't buy them in packages of 3 or 5 or anything like that. You can do the box of them. At a minimum, buy the big box. Like they come pre-cut and they'll have like 10 or 15 of them in there. Buy them from a paint and auto body shop. They're a lot cheaper and you go through them fairly rapidly. So a really good way to learn an expensive lesson is to buy them at a retail chain and see how much money that costs you. So don't do that. Buy them from your local automotive body shop. And I like to buy either the box of 15 or 20, whatever it is. They're already pre-cut, like a 4" by 6" hand pad. They call them scouring pads. Or like this time, I just bought like a 25-foot roll. So that way I can, if I only need a 3" pad, what happens with the bigger pads is you'll fold them over to try to get more use out of them, and then the sides that you haven't used will end up rubbing against each other and kind of fray and split open. So again, if you don't need, and you can cut those pads in half, so not a big deal, but I like to buy the roll. That way if I need an 8" long scour pad, I can cut that. If I need a 3" long scour pad, I can cut that. So kind of customizable to what you need for the task you're doing at hand, and we're gonna get busy doing that right now, which is just scuffing. It's equivalent to about a 400 grit, so once we get done with scuffing, we're gonna give everything a good clean blowout with air, good clean air, and then we're gonna start the wax and grease removal process, and we'll get into a little bit more in depth on that as well, because I have a feeling you're not doing it correctly, because I've done it incorrectly over the years. So we're gonna take the time to maybe explain some correct ways to use wax and grease remover and what wax and grease remover is and 2 different types and what they do. So let's get busy, let's scuff away. Oh, that's pretty cool. I've never bought the actual roll before. I've always bought the pre-cut ones, and the really neat thing about this, I wasn't expecting it, they come pre-cut. So yeah, they're in a roll, but you can just pull out what you need and rip it off. How cool is that? So let's get busy. It's the little things that excite me, okay guys? All right, so now that we have everything all scuffed up with the maroon scuff pad, we're gonna give it one final DA sand. So that's dual action orbital palm sander with some 80 grit sandpaper, just to give that good bite for the epoxy primer to lay down into when we get ready to do that here in a second. Let's go. All right, the DA sanding is done. We are ready to move on to the next step, and that's gonna be wax and grease remover. So we gotta blow all these things off, get them all cleaned up, apply some wax and grease remover. We're gonna be using, because these are bare metal, I don't think I've actually given you guys the details. When I say wax and grease remover, there are two types of wax and grease remover. One is solvent-based or petroleum distillate-based because it's trying to dissolve the waxes and greases that come from crude oil or dinosaur bones, right? The other one is waterborne wax and grease remover. And when you're going to bare metal, you actually want to use both of them, okay? Well, in most cases, you want to use both of them, whether it's in bare metal or not. We'll get to that in another video, but for right now, for the purpose of this, I'm sorry, I haven't really given you a lot of technical information about wax and grease remover. So the solvent-based wax and grease remover removes all of the waxes and greases from dinosaur bones or crude oil or anything in a typical shop environment that could get on there. So your vapor from the oil lines, from your compressors, anything, obviously that shouldn't be an issue because you should have good filtration, but if that were to occur, or any kind of air tool lubricant or anything like that, that just happens to mist on there, or any other, oils or anything like that around your shop that just happens to make its way to the surface and contaminate it, that will cause a lot of issues when you go to start laying down paint or primer or epoxy, fish eyes, modeling, all that kind of stuff. So streaking, and then it will cause adhesion problems down the road. So obviously it can't really stick to something that it doesn't actually attach to. So oil prevents that. That's why you use wax and grease remover to begin with. The waterborne wax and grease remover is for you. Okay, so we have dinosaur bones on one column and you on the other column. They're both organic in nature, but one took several 100,000 years to decompose and then be created into something else called crude oil. We pump that out of the ground, we refine it, and then we have 1,000,001 products from it that we mainly use in a shop type environment, lubricant wise and everything else. So the solvent based is basically petroleum distillates, and it removes all of those contaminants from the surface of the metal. Now, you see me wearing gloves all the time. There's one important reason from that is I don't want the oils from my hand or fingerprints getting on the fresh bare metal. That will cause issues. That is a type of oil that is not removed from petroleum distillates or solvent-based wax and grease remover. Enter the reason we have waterborne wax and grease remover, which takes care of the rest of the organic waxes and greases that mainly come from you perspiring, which is sweating on it. So even if you don't touch it with your ungloved hands, most of the time, people don't know any better, especially your friends coming over and checking your workout. The first thing they want to do is go over and touch it. So waterborne wax and grease remover helps that. Even if you don't have friends, even if you don't touch it with your bare hands, you still have the potential to sweat, right? It's usually a hotter environment in which we are working. So the chances of you dropping one drop of sweat onto the surface can cause issues as well. So I use both of these products concurrently or simultaneously. I would recommend you do the same thing. Solvent-based for the crude oil waxes and greases, and waterborne, not just for hippies, it's for you too. It's to help remove all the oils from your hands or sweat from the surface of the metal or paintable surface that you're prepping for paint as well. So two products, two good reasons, both very, very important. So maybe I'll do a separate wax and grease remover video in the future, but enough of me rambling. Let's get to cleaning these fenders up and getting them ready to spray.